All right, we are here. Thank you so much, Dr. Tina Carroll-Scott, for meeting with me today. You are the medical director and president, and correct me if I'm wrong, founder of South Miami Children's Clinic. Um,
So I don't know if I would say founder because I have a board and it was actually created before I got to the clinic. So I was
ah,
the last piece of the puzzle, finding a medical director.
Okay, all right. You're an important last piece of the puzzle.
Yes,
So,
yes.
the South Miami Children's Clinic was founded to support the uninsured and underinsured children of South Miami with high quality medical care. I read on your site that the clinic is a way to provide resources that address the medical, psychological, and economic problems that families are facing in South Miami. And
Mhm.
it sounds like such important, like heart-driven, passionate work. It was such a joy to meet you, Dr. Tina, during the personal branding and vocal empowerment workshop that I facilitated with the Miami Foundation with the Saltwater Fellows.
Mhm.
You were one of those amazing Saltwater Fellows.
Thank you.
And I so appreciated your openness and vulnerability during that workshop. You've got quite the track record for media appearances, I know. So talking about health issues. So this ain't your first rodeo, I
No, it's
know. But today we're going to focus on Dr. Tina Carroll-Scott as president, medical director, and runner of things
yes.
at a nonprofit health services organization. So this is all about you.
Okay.
Um, Leaders Talk Communications is all about highlighting how leaders manage communications at their business or their nonprofit so that other leaders can gain insights from you. And I have no doubt that leaders are going to be able to gain insights from you today. So I'm just going to jump right in with my first question for
Yeah.
you. Tell us about the work you do at South Miami Children's Clinic and what inspires you the most about what you do.
So, just for a little bit of background, I am a general pediatrician and I've actually been in practice for over 30 years now. And I've
Um,
always been passionate about working with the underserved, primarily because growing up, I grew up in upstate New York, and my father was a 2 to 3 pack a day smoker and
oh,
had a lot of
wow.
health issues and actually ended up dying from lung cancer at 61 years of age. And I saw how difficult it was for him as a Black man with a high school education and how he was, I think, prejudged with a lot of his medical encounters over the years
Mhm.
when he was sick, and that he did not get the best care because he was not health literate. And he didn't have an advocate who could, kind of help him navigate the medical system. And
Mhm.
so that was one of the reasons why I really did want to go into medicine, and I wanted to work with vulnerable patient populations. I think the thing that inspires me the most about being in this particular community, which is low income, I have a large percentage of my patients who are African American or Hispanic. And, I look at the challenges that these families face every single day, and that
Mhm.
they still come in with a smile on their face, they still show up. And I think that that's probably the thing that inspires me the most, that even with the struggles that they have, where most people would just want to opt out and just, not even get out of bed, that they still,
Mhm.
they still get up to go to work and provide for their families. And to me I think that that's what makes me show up and want to continue doing
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, the resilience of people in community. I grew up in one of those underserved communities, and so the resilience of those people, like, they're working to make it every day. They care about their children just as much. They want their children to be healthy just as much. They want to be healthy just as much. It's all about access to resources, and so you're providing that access to resources. I didn't know that personal story about your father, so thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. I told you I just lost my father a couple of weeks ago, and while he was,
Sorry.
um, thank you, and I'm sorry about yours as well. While he was in care, there was a lot we had to do to advocate for him,
Yeah.
and uh, I know a lot of that was both, driven by age and race.
Absolutely.
Um, there is
Absolutely.
so much bias
Yes.
in the medical profession, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's nice to hear what inspired you to do the work that you do.
Hmm.
So, talk to me about your role as medical director and president of a nonprofit organization. Tell me a bit about the different stakeholders that you're connecting with. Obviously, families and children, obviously, your staff as well.
Hmm.
Um, Tell me a bit about them and where you feel you thrive as Dr. Tina in connecting with them.
So I think where I thrive is with my authenticity and also my lived experience. And because of my
Mm.
upbringing and as I said before, with what happened with my father and multiple other family members growing up, for me, I wanted to make sure that I had empathy and
Yeah.
that I treated everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their background. And I think that's one of the things that I really am a stickler about with whoever works at this clinic. That
Mm.
everyone who walks in this door, whether they're uninsured or insured, or whatever their race is, ethnicity, that everybody is treated as a VIP. And I'm very serious about that. And, especially with the front desk, because the front desk is the face of my clinic. And no
Yeah.
matter what I do in the exam room, I could be the best pediatrician ever and, patients could love me. But if they walk in the door and they have a bad experience, at the front desk, that colors everything that I do once I get into the exam room. So
Indeed, it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I make sure that whoever I hire, that this is more than just a job, that they really have to be invested in the mission and the vision that I've created at this clinic, and that it goes beyond the 9 to 5. And
Yeah.
I have been blessed to have quality people throughout the 18 years that I've been at the clinic. Most of my employees have been here over, since the start, over 15
Wow.
years. My medical assistant has been with me for 17, 18 years. And
Dr. Tina, that's amazing.
it is
That's
amazing.
impressive.
It is. And especially because they make straight salary. I really am not able to offer any benefits. But what I do on the back end is that I give a lot of flexibility, because I remember being a working mom and working in a different practice, in a group practice, and just the struggles that I had, where I wanted to be present for things for my kids and taking off time and not having that type of grace given to me. And, I vow that if I were
Yeah.
ever in a position where I was the boss, that I would make sure to do that for my employees. And so, over the years, I've allowed my female employees mostly, when they were raising their kids and they didn't have a babysitter to bring the kids to work, if they needed to.
Yeah.
And we take turns watching them. And, and
Oh
even
my.
yeah, and even being able to take off time if there was something going on at their kids' schools where they were, getting some award or whatever it was that they needed to be present for, and that we would work that out. And that actually has worked really well, as far as my employees. I think being loyal to me, because they know that I have their back and that they're family. I mean, that's really what they are. I mean, yes, I say
Yeah.
that, but they're really family, and they they fully understand what my mission is and have bought into it. And yeah.
I love that. So you
Yeah.
said a couple of things that really resonated with me. The first was that you make sure when you're hiring that you're hiring people who are devoted and to the mission. That when someone walks through the door, you want them to be treated like a VIP. I'm curious as a leader how you cement that thinking into your employees. Is there training that happens? Is there an onboarding that happens? How do you ensure as a leader? Because I've heard leaders say this before, and I'm always curious, like, how do you make sure that employees understand not just that people are treated with dignity, that they're treated with, as a VIP, that customers are being treated in the way that you
Mhm.
want as a leader, but that your staff is trained in the way that you would want it to be done.
So this may seem like a really simplistic answer to your question, and it's not even anything formal per se. I think that one of my gifts is the ability to connect with people and to trust my gut as far as
Mm,
who would be a good fit and who wouldn't. And then I also think a lot of it is me modeling the behavior that I want to see. And
yes,
so
yeah,
before I hire anyone and whatever the position is, I actually will do that job and demonstrate what it is that they need to do. Whether, I mean,
oh my God,
yeah,
what?
I answer phones, I mean, the way that the practice is run, I call it a micro practice because we all wear different hats and whatever job needs to be done at that particular time. It may not be your job description, but if there isn't someone available to do that, then you need to jump
Yeah,
in. And I do the
yeah,
same thing. A lot of times, my medical assistant may be tending to a patient in an exam room and giving vaccines, and the phone's ringing off the hook, and I will pick up. So
yeah.
that's kind of how we run
I
things.
love it. You're
Yeah,
modeling. You're
yeah,
modeling. You're being the leader. You're being what you want to see in your employees.
yeah,
That's so important.
yeah.
Especially, I talk all the time about core values and the importance of walking the talk. And this is like such a great example of you walking the talk. Okay, so let's move on to challenges you faced as a leader,
Mhm.
communications challenges you may have faced. I always ask about the number one communications challenge. There may be others, but
Yeah.
talk a bit about a communications challenge you faced as a leader and how you handled it.
So you had mentioned, earlier that you saw that I've done a lot of media, and that was not the case early in my career. Actually, a lot of the media appearances happened during the pandemic, and prior
Oh,
to that, I would say that my work at the clinic was definitely under the radar. Most people did not know who I was and what I was doing in South Miami until the pandemic hit. During the
mm,
pandemic, I got really frustrated with the vaccine rollout, and especially because communities of color were being, the most hit when it came to COVID infections and deaths. And I felt like those communities should have been the priority when it came to the vaccine rollout, and it wasn't happening in our state. And I decided at that point that I needed to elevate my voice because I had a platform, and that I could be the one to educate this community, and hopefully, by educating this community about COVID and the vaccines, also educate other communities of color. And basically, what I did. Is I did not know the mayor of the city of Miami, and I cold emailed her and I told her who I was and my idea of doing vaccine pop-up clinics, in the neighborhood where I work, and to be able to provide the vaccines to my community. And Daniela Living Cava, she did not blink an eye to grant me that request, and that's kind of how it started. So I did my first vaccine pop up event, and prior to that, I educated the community to get the buy-in, as a trusted messenger and all of that. And one of the major news stations picked up the story, and then after that, I was probably getting at least 1 to 2 interviews a week. And
wow.
yeah, and so to get back to your question, looking back now, at the time it seemed like a great thing, and we're in the middle of this pandemic. Things are changing quickly. There was a lot of mistrust or distrust in communities of color, and I felt like I was the perfect person to educate that particular community. And as time went on, over 6 months, 8 months, I think that it was probably a little bit of overexposure. And there was
Mm,
one particular interview where I think there was an agenda with this news outlet. And I did the interview, and there was a sound bite that they used where it didn't put me in the best light, where it looked like I was attacking a particular political figure in our state. And it really threw me for a loop, because it didn't represent me in the way that I wanted to be represented. And it happened to
Mm.
also be someone who was of color. And, and I'd been very intentional about saying how much I respected this person with their pedigree and all of that, but I did not agree with a particular decision that was made that I thought was detrimental, especially to communities of color. And it kind of got twisted. And after that happened, I pulled back, where I had been doing all these interviews, weekly, and then I just stopped like cold turkey and decided not to accept any more interviews. And that was a difficult time for me, honestly, because
Mm.
I lost my footing and I lost my confidence as well. And there was also a news no, it was actually a television interview where I had never read comments before after I did interviews, and I
Oh no, the
read
comments.
the comments, with this particular interview. And
Yeah.
it was harsh, I mean, there were people who were saying that, oh, I was a talking head for the left. And it just went on and on. And that was pretty much it for me. And I lost my voice and I stopped doing
Mm.
interviews, altogether after that. And so I
So
would
how did you find that space again to use your voice? Because your voice as a leader of
yeah,
the clinic is important, and it
yeah,
was important then as well.
yeah. I would say being part of the Saltwater Fellowship definitely helped me to regain my voice. And it was
Mm.
such a blessing for me because it was unexpected. I did not know anything about it. And someone told me that I would be the perfect fit for this inaugural fellowship. And being part of the fellowship over the last year and being with other like-minded individuals in their respective spaces and just hearing how they've navigated similar challenges, I think helped me regain a lot of the confidence that I had lost, and having people in my corner, who understood me being a nonprofit leader, what the challenges were, and being able to kind of like lift me up a little bit, I think has helped me tremendously.
Wow. I have to tell you, Dr. Tina, I was not expecting that. So from the time of the pandemic until now, with the Saltwater
Yeah.
Fellowship, you've been hesitant to use your voice.
Yes.
Wow. Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Yeah.
So I want to say Miami-Dade County Mayor um, Danielle
Danielle
Levine
Levine
Cava
Cava.
heard your call, responded, that took you on this journey, and I guess looking at comments is always like a recipe for disaster,
Yeah.
and it's taken you from that time until now.
Yeah.
Um, is that also what made it easier for you to say yes to this interview?
Yeah.
Well,
No, no,
yeah.
absolutely that. And I will throw in one other unexpected thing. So I had never done Give Miami Day the entire 18 years that I've been at the clinic. And the
Oh.
Saltwater Fellowship also encouraged me to do that last year. And there was one donor who I did not know who donated exactly $51.45. And after she donated that, I had maybe 73 donors that had contributed maybe $15,000. And I sent a personalized thank you to every single one. This woman who donated the $51.45 started emailing me after Give Miami Day, and she wanted to meet me in person and come to see my clinic and the work that I do. And I was overwhelmed just with life, and I kept pushing her off and pushing her off, to the tune of 20 plus emails that she sent to me to try to get in front
What?
of my face. So fast forward, and this was about a month ago, she shows up at my clinic, and I was in the middle of seeing patients, and I went outside and I said, okay, I have 10 minutes. And she wanted my speed pitch, how did I get here? And she's writing down feverishly on a piece of paper. And she finally stops me and she says, your clinic came on my radar. And I've been watching you for a while and the work that that you do. And I was waiting for you to register for Give Miami Day. And I am in charge of a foundation that would like to give you money. And she said, if you could have 4 programs that were fully funded, what would they be? And you can get back
Wait,
to me.
what?
Yes. And she said, get back to me by Friday. It does not have to be anything detailed, just a rough email, with what you would want funded, and we'll go from there. I cried.
Dr. Tina, I have chills.
Yeah, I
What?
actually started crying, and I told her that I don't even know what the amount of money is, but it actually doesn't matter because, you came here with a message, and, you had to get in front of my face. And the fact that you have been researching me and looking at my work and wanted to reward me for this, it's amazing. And I'm going to abbreviate this
Whoa.
story a little bit because I had a session with the saltwaters, and I was telling them about, the other fellows about this. And I was telling them that I was embarrassed in a way because although, I was grateful for any money to support programs, what I really needed was money for my operational costs because I need to
Mm,
run my clinic, and that
yeah.
I wanted a portion of that money to be unrestricted. But I felt like it was kind of forward to ask for that. And they were
Mm.
like, no, Tina,
You
ask.
have not
Tell,
because you
tell
ask not.
her exactly what you need. And
Yeah.
so I did it. And I went out on a limb. And at the end of the email, I said, I would love if 20% of whatever it is that you're going to give me would be unrestricted because I have these other bills that I need to pay. And she received the email and she said, okay, I'm going to look over everything and I'll get back in touch with you. Monday morning comes and I get to work. My medical assistant says FedEx is here and they have, a package for you to sign. I go, it's an envelope, and inside of the envelope is a check from Fidelity, and it was for $100,000. And I had asked for 20% to be unrestricted, and she made the entire $100,000 unrestricted. And I tell you that story to tell you that what that woman did in that moment, for somebody that she did not know, the amount of trust that she had in a stranger, and that she
Mhm.
gave me like the wind beneath my wings to fly even higher. And
Wow.
and I talk to her almost every day now because she's actually become a very good friend, and is continuing, to support me and advocate,
Oh
for
my
me.
gosh.
But yes, so that
That is an
also helped me to regain my confidence and to say, you know what? No, maybe you need to, get back up, on the
yeah.
platform that you were
Do
on.
you remember?
A voice. Yeah.
Do you remember during the workshop when I said that when you have something to share with the world, you have a responsibility to share it because it can offer,
Yeah.
because it can benefit your organizations, benefit
Yeah.
the communities that you're serving. I am so
Yeah.
very happy for you,
Thank you.
that you were a part of that fellowship and that wonderful group of people motivated you and spurred you on,
Yeah.
and that you immediately saw the benefit of that in this weird, strange, like cosmic, serendipitous
Yes.
way. I mean, it's just amazing. Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
it also showed me the power of thank you, because,
Yeah. Yes.
I asked her what made her, decide to give money to my clinic, and she said the catalyst was the thank you for the $51.45, the personalized thank you. She said the
Yeah.
fact that you did that, that is what motivated me.
Wow. Yeah. And I have to say, so many nonprofits forget that follow-up thank you, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so important that you did that. Wow. Even, aside from the fact that you're a nonprofit, I think there's a business lesson in this as well
Mhm.
about the importance of leaders finding and owning their voices and how they can be, leaders are sometimes so heads down in the business and they
Yes.
don't, especially as they're growing, they don't want to take the time or they can't take the time to be that face of the organization. And you've just given another reason why that's so important.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is so awesome. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations, by
You.
the way. So tell me, what's been the most successful vehicle that you've used to communicate with the people important to the success of your clinic, your key stakeholders? Is it that personalized note? Is it a phone call? Like, what is the vehicle that you find that allows you to sort of sprinkle your Dr. Tina
Mhm.
fairy dust and magic that connects and engages folks, so that you can move those stakeholders to take action in the way that you might want, whether that's employees or funders or your board or the families that you're serving?
So I think a lot of it is the storytelling. I would definitely say that
Mm,
that is one of my biggest strengths. And I am definitely the face of the clinic. And, I know because I have such deep relationships with the patient families, and I look at them as families, so not just patients. And I've developed those relationships over the last 18 years, and so I can speak, really, pretty authentically, about
yeah.
like with the impact stories and that sort of thing. So I think that that's honestly what does it, because they're not just patients. I mean, they truly are family, and it goes beyond the 9 to 5, weekends, after hours, whenever they're in need, whatever the issue is. I will try to find a resource to support them.
Oh, love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question. If you
Mhm.
could wave your magic wand, what would you want the world to understand most deeply about the important healthcare work that you're doing at South Miami Children's Clinic, or about you as the leader of that clinic?
I think I would say that when you're doing this type of work, when you're working in underserved areas where, people are dealing with housing insecurity and food insecurity and all types of abuse and traumas, that with nonprofits, and especially when you have a board and everyone loves the impact stories, right?
Mm,
But change does not happen overnight. It's not instantaneous when you're talking about these types of issues. And, it takes a lot of time. It takes years. It takes, stability, being in a community for a number of years and building those relationships before you start to see the fruits of your labor. And that has definitely been the case with my journey here. Now I'm seeing kids that, are going off to college that, I've
wow.
seen since they were babies, and I've dealt with all of the issues
Oh,
with
wow.
their particular families. And,
Yeah.
and the fact that, because I think that a lot of these communities see organizations come in and they have a certain agenda. And when they don't get the certain stats that they want, or data, they leave. And so, they're kind of used to that type of pattern. And so
Mm,
I think, me being here, from 2007, and, and saying, I am completely invested, in this community. I'm not going anywhere. And, however long it takes to make those changes, I'm going to be here. And
yeah.
so, and that, I think that that's probably the biggest thing that I'm continually trying to, let my board know, and potential funders, that, that's
Change takes time.
it does take time. And, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, you're not going to have, the impact stories that you want right away. It will come.
Right.
But it takes a long-term investment.
Right. And you know that because now you've got
Yeah,
18 years of stories of
exactly.
impact to share with them.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has just been such a treat. I'm
You.
I'm blown away by what you've shared with me, and I just thank you so much for your time, and for being here today. Thank you for sharing your stories, Dr.
No,
Tina.
thank you so much.